Jerry Plumbull was a man whose shape was rather like a beach ball with legs. His head was as bald and shiny as a freshly polished snooker ball, and it wobbled on top of his enormous body like a jelly on a plate. Jerry had a particularly nasty habit. He was a blagger, a food filcher, a snack snatcher. If you had a sandwich, he'd want it. If you had a sausage roll, he'd sniff it out. He spent his days wandering through the park, his beady eyes scanning for unattended picnics and unwatched packed lunches. He believed that any food left unguarded for more than 3 seconds was fair game, a rule he had made up entirely by himself. He didn't just steal from anyone, oh no. Jerry had standards of a sort. He preferred to pilfer from the unsuspecting, the slow and the small. Grannies were his speciality. He once nabbed a whole Victoria sponge from a Women's Institute bake sale, leaving a trail of crumbs and outrage in his wake. Another time, he managed to swipe a thermos flask full of hot, sugary tea from a birdwatcher, who was so busy looking at a rare tit that he didn't notice a thing. Jerry wasn't just hungry, he was greedy. And his greed made him do the most dreadfully cheeky things you could possibly imagine, all without a single shred of guilt. On this particular Tuesday, a day as grey and uninteresting as boiled cabbage, Jerry was feeling exceptionally peckish. His stomach wasn't just rumbling, it was performing a full-blown orchestral symphony of gurgles and groans. He'd already borrowed a packet of crisps from a toddler and a half-eaten apple from a bin, but it wasn't enough. He needed something more substantial, something protein-packed. His nose twitched and his eyes, like 2 currents in a vast expanse of doughy face, darted about the park. He was a shark, and the park was his ocean, full of delicious, unsuspecting fish. That's when he saw her. An old lady, sitting peacefully on a bench, a small Tupperware box resting on her lap. She was a picture of serenity, with hair as white as candy floss and a smile that could melt the hardest of hearts. But Jerry's heart wasn't hard. It was just empty and demanding to be filled. He crept closer, his large, soft-soled shoes making no sound on the damp path. His gaze was fixed on the Tupperware box. He could practically taste the contents. It was the thrill of the chase, the joy of the snatch, that truly motivated him. What treasure, he wondered, lay within that plastic container? The old lady, whose name was Agnes, carefully lifted the lid from her container. Inside, nestled on a bed of lettuce, was a single perfect boiled egg. It was smooth, white, and beautifully oval. Agnes had been looking forward to it all morning. She had boiled it for precisely 7 minutes, cooled it under the tap, and peeled it without a single blemish. She even had a tiny paper sachet of salt and pepper. It was her simple pleasure, her little midday treat. She hummed a happy tune as she prepared to tap the egg on the side of the box, ready to crack it open. This was her moment of park bench paradise. But Jerry was faster than he looked. Like a portly ninja, he swooped in. One moment, the egg was there, a pearly orb of potential deliciousness. The next, it was gone. Agnes blinked. She looked at her empty Tupperware box, then at her hands. Had she imagined it? Had a particularly large and ambitious pigeon dived in and made off with her lunch? But no, she saw him. Waddling away as fast as his chunky legs could carry him was Jerry Plumbull, cramming her beautiful boiled egg into his mouth in one go. He didn't even peel it properly, swallowing it shell and all with a single enormous gulp. A fire ignited in Agnes's eyes. This was not just any egg. This was her egg, her perfect 7-minute egg. "You!" she shrieked, her voice suddenly as sharp as a needle. "You thieving lummox! Give me back my egg!" Jerry, mid-swallow, just turned and laughed, a horrible gulping sound. But he had underestimated Agnes. She wasn't just any old lady. She was an old lady who had had her lunch stolen, and that made her dangerous. She fumbled in her handbag, her fingers closing around something hard and metallic. It was her trusty dessert spoon. With the speed that defied her years, Agnes charged. She caught up with Jerry, who was now clutching his stomach and giggling. Whack! She brought the spoon down squarely on his shiny, bald head. It made a sound like a coconut being tapped. "Egg of mine, now be thine!" she chanted, her voice low and strange. Whack! Round and white, a fearful sight. Whack! "What you stole, you shall become, until my lunch is finally done." Jerry stopped laughing. It didn't hurt much, but it was certainly odd. An old lady whacking him with a spoon and chanting gibberish. He just thought she was bonkers and waddled off, feeling rather pleased with his free, if slightly crunchy, meal. The next morning, Jerry Plumbull woke up feeling rather strange. His skin, usually a blotchy red canvas of broken veins and greasy pores, felt unusually smooth. He padded to the bathroom and stared into the mirror. He was pale. Not just a little bit pale, but a brilliant uniform, chalky white. It was as if someone had painted him with a very thick coat of emulsion. He poked his own cheek. It felt firm, almost plasticky, and cool to the touch. He tried to scowl, but his face felt stiff and unresponsive, as if his muscles had decided to go on strike. He just looked blankly back at himself, a pale, round man in a mirror. Things got weirder as the week went on. By Thursday, Jerry Plumbull noticed he was finding it difficult to bend. His joints, once flexible enough for a quick food snatch, now felt rigid and locked. Getting his socks on was a 10-minute ordeal that left him breathless and confused. He felt rounder, not fatter, which was his normal state of being, but geometrically round. His body seemed to be losing its definition, his arms and legs merging into his torso, making him look less like a man and more like a giant wobbly thumb. He felt a constant low-level sense of confusion, as if his brain was wrapped in cotton wool. People began to stare. When he waddled to the corner shop for his daily multi-pack of crisps, the shopkeeper, Mr. Chopra, squinted at him over his glasses. "Feeling all right, Jerry Plumbull?" he asked. "You look a bit smooth." A group of children pointed at him in the street, one of them whispering loudly to their mum, "Mummy, why is that man so shiny and white?" Jerry Plumbull felt a hot flush of shame, which was a very new and unpleasant feeling for him. He wanted to shout at them, to tell them to mind their own business, but he just felt muddled and scared. By Saturday, he couldn't leave the house. He was too stiff to manage the front door. He just stood in the middle of his living room, a towering, pale, oval shape. He felt a strange pressure building inside him, a sensation of being cooked from the inside out. His thoughts were slow and thick, like custard. He could barely remember his own name, let alone the taste of a stolen sausage roll. He was no longer Jerry Plumbull, the food filcher. He was becoming something else, something smooth, silent, and utterly, terrifyingly simple. He was becoming an egg. In the gloom of his living room, Jerry sits hunched at the table, a single lamp casting a pale, sickly halo over his trembling hands. Before him lies a plate of his favourite food, cold chips, a sausage roll, and a half-eaten slice of Battenberg. But tonight, even his beloved snacks taste like ashes. Tears roll down his cheeks, leaving faint, salty trails across his unnaturally smooth skin. He picks at a limp chip, voice quivering, "Oh God, I don't want to be an egg. Oh God, help me." The words hang in the air, heavy and hopeless, echoing off the peeling wallpaper and threadbare carpet. The ticking of the clock grows louder, each second marking the march towards his peculiar, shell-bound destiny. Desperation fills the room, thick and suffocating. Jerry's fork clatters onto the plate. He buries his face in his hands, silently pleading for mercy, for a miracle, for anything at all. But the only answer is the oppressive silence and the slow, creeping certainty that his fate is sealed. As the light flickers and Jerry's sobs fade into the night, he is left alone with his sorrow, his regrets, and the unbearable knowledge that by morning he may no longer be a man at all. Sunday morning dawned and the transformation was complete. Where Jerry Plumbull had once stood, there was now a giant boiled egg. It was 6 feet tall, perfectly smooth, and a brilliant, pristine white. It stood silently in the centre of his living room, a monument to greed and a testament to the power of a very cross old lady. It didn't think. It didn't feel. It had no memory of crisps or cake or pilfered picnics. It was, for all intents and purposes, just a very, very, very large boiled egg. It was a shell of his former self, both literally and figuratively. A quiet knock echoed at the front door. The door creaked open, and in stepped Agnes. She was carrying a very large plate, an equally large knife and fork, and an enormous salt shaker. She smiled a calm, satisfied smile as she looked up at the giant egg. Suddenly, Agnes threw her hands to the air, her eyes wide with triumph, and shouted, "Finally, my feast!" Her voice rang through the house, echoing with years of anticipation and hunger. Then, with a fierce glare and a booming voice, Agnes yelled, "That's what you get for trifling with me, you fat bastard!" "There you are," she said softly, as if speaking to a long-lost pet. "I knew I'd find you." She didn't seem at all surprised. After all, it was her curse, and she knew it was a reliable one. It was an old family recipe for justice, passed down through generations of lunch-loving ladies. With a practiced hand, she took her knife and tapped the top of the egg. Crack. A perfect fissure appeared. She sliced off a large section of the top, which came away cleanly, revealing the firm, pale yellow yolk within. The aroma of a perfectly boiled egg filled the room. "Lovely," she murmured, cutting a large slice and placing it on her plate. She sat down at Jerry's dining table, sprinkled a generous amount of salt and pepper on her slice, and took a bite. It was delicious. Exactly 7 minutes, she thought. Perfect. And so Agnes enjoyed her lunch in peace. It took her a whole week to finish the entire egg, but she savoured every last bite. The story of Jerry the Blagger became a local legend, a strange and cautionary tale whispered in the park. It served as a powerful reminder to all the would-be snack snatchers and picnic pilferers. Never ever steal an old lady's lunch. You never know if she might be carrying a spoon, a curse, and a very big appetite for justice. And nobody, absolutely nobody, wants to end up as a 6-foot-tall boiled egg.